Hi
Cool.
everyone, welcome to Yoga Diaries. Today our guest is Rosalind Southward. Rosalind, thank you so much for joining my, Yoga Diaries. Please, can you introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. It's
Thank
fun
you.
to be here. So hi everyone, my name is Rosalind. I am primarily a forest yoga teacher, and I live down here in Cornwall in Newquay. I've been here for a few years now. So yeah, I am also a long distance runner. I surf, I cold swim. And I have a job. I work also for a sustainable clothing company as well. That's my full-time job, and I teach yoga too. So yeah.
Oh, how fantastic. Thank you, Rosalind. I believe you are a senior forest yoga teacher, yes? Am I
Yeah,
correct? Yes.
I've been teaching forest yoga for a really long time now, like since 2012. So yeah, like 10 years.
Do you
Um,
teach in the teacher trainings for them?
I have done, yes,
Yeah.
in the past. So I've assisted a lot of teacher trainings alongside Anna Forrest and Jose Colaco and some of the other Forest Yoga Guardians as well. I've also taught the business course. So yeah, I've not been involved in a teacher training for a while, but just since the pandemic,
Yes.
things kind of shifted, and I obviously relocated as well. So yeah.
Before I move into another forest yoga question, I'd like to ask you, how did you get start into yoga practice and what was your like breaking point or transformational point? What made you to stay with yoga?
Yeah, so my story of how I started practicing yoga is quite funny, actually. So years ago, and I'm talking like 20 plus years ago, I did my first yoga class, and it was actually off a VHS video
Oh,
that I
wow.
bought in Woolworths in the Christmas sale. So I was like literally like I'm gonna say I was like 22, and I randomly bought this like video in the Christmas sale because I don't know, because yoga wasn't a thing back then, was it? Like 20 years ago.
No,
I
no.
mean, it's the kind of thing that I don't know. Maybe like you saw it at the community center. There were like classes or something like this. So
Yeah.
anyway, I bought this like video and I did this yoga class at home in the flat that I was living in London at the time. And I just remember I didn't really get it at all. And this video had been filmed in like Ibiza or somewhere like that. And so there were all these like tanned people on a beach doing this yoga practice and breathing. And I was like kind of like wiggling around on, on the living room floor of this flat in Streatham or wherever I was living. And I was just like, yeah, kind of I don't really get I didn't really get it. So that was my first yoga class that I ever did. And then many years later, when I was living in Thailand working as an English teacher, I was a long distance runner, but obviously it's so hot there that I was really doing my running in the gym on the treadmill. Just because I don't know, it was the only way to be able to run comfortably, really, in the heat. And there was a Bikram yoga studio in that gym, and the studio was opposite the changing rooms. So whenever you were coming in and out of the changing rooms, you'd face the Bikram studio, and you couldn't see in, but they had two sets of like sliding doors on either side of the studio, and it used to get so hot in there that periodically they'd open the door just to let the vent, kind of let there be ventilation. And so sometimes when you were coming in and out of the changing rooms, the door would like slide open and you'd see everyone. They were always in like eagle pose, like sweating profusely. And I was just like, got really intrigued. And I was like, what is going on in that yoga studio? And I was a runner, and at that time I was really into my running and my cardio. And but I realized I had a free pass that they gave me in my gym membership when I joined to try the Bikram. So I was like, right, I'm gonna go. I'm determined to find out, kind of what's going on in there. So yeah, so I tried a class and I really liked it actually. And I think I practiced Bikram for about 5 years consistently. And I think the thing that drew me into that actually was the fact that it was in a heated room. So it kind of pandered to that part of me that really enjoyed like my running and the cardio. And that kind of drew me in. And I think what I also enjoyed about it was that it's obviously the same sequence of poses. And particularly when I lived in Thailand, my job was very things were always changing in terms of you never really kind of didn't have a set schedule in terms of who you were teaching, and it was quite stressful sometimes. And I just really liked the fact that when I went and did my yoga class, I knew what I was going to get. You know, the dialogue is the same, the poses are the same, and that was really very anchoring. I think when everything else felt very like way over the place, it was really nice to go and do 90 minutes of a class where you knew exactly what you were going to get. So that was how I started yoga.
Wow.
I got into forest yoga when I moved to Malaysia teaching English, and I started going to Bali on holiday to practice yoga. And there I took a class with a teacher called Kat Kabira, who was my first forest yoga teacher. And you know, I was just trying loads of different styles of classes, and ended up going to this forest yoga class. Didn't really know what I was going to, and I really enjoyed it because it was just very different from anything else I'd practiced.
I'm going to come to that question. So we've moved to forest yoga now. What is forest yoga?
Yes, good question. So often people come to class and they're like, oh, forest yoga, are we going to do tree pose, or are we going to be outside? And I'm like, no. So forest yoga is spelt with 2 R's. It's named after my teacher called Anna Forrest. So that's where the name comes from. And Anna created the style of yoga.
Where is she based, by the way, Rosalind?
Anna is from the States originally. So, but I mean, her and her partner Jose, they're traveling a lot with the teaching, the trainings and the workshops. But yeah, originally forest yoga was mainly in the US before it kind of spread more worldwide. But now there are forest yoga teachers all over the world, really. So, you know, if you travel, you can probably find someone in a class somewhere. So forest yoga is Anna took the traditional yoga poses and she reworked them and the sequencing to make it work better for a modern Western body, because the lives that we're living these days, in terms of, you know, I don't know, being at work, sitting on a computer, there's lots of kind of like lots of sitting down, you know, people having not so great posture, and so Anna created a practice and just tweaked like, you know, many of the yoga poses to bring elements in that help us with what we and our bodies can benefit from in today's society. And I think that was really what kind of drew me into the practice, was that it just was quite different from anything else that I'd practiced before. It has core strengthening in it. And I had, you know, quite a lot of back problems years ago, and so I found that really helpful. With forest yoga, it's not a set sequence, but there's definitely a skeleton way of sequencing. So classes are always different, but you will also recognise the pattern of where a class is going. So I think that's like a really nice, happy medium between having like this structure, but being able to have that creativity within it. So I enjoy that for sequencing as a teacher, but I also enjoy it for practicing as well. You know, I've got the bits that I feel are like the anchor, and then you can do different stuff within it. So I kind of find that exciting. We use props quite a lot, not as much as other styles, but props are very much an integral part of forest yoga, which I find really helpful, especially as I'm getting older. You know, my practice has changed. I mean, I'm like nearly 45. What I'm doing now, my practice is very different from when I started and I was in my early 20s. You
look amazing. Thank you. You look really good. Rosalind, what would you say about what do you really focus? What is the main emphasis on forest yoga?
So my main emphasis when I teach forest yoga is trying to offer a practice that helps people work with the poses in a way that works for their body on that given day. So one of the things that I really loved about forest yoga, and I still love about it, is that there is no one size fits all. Within the poses, you hold poses for a little bit longer in Forest Yoga. We're in them for like a good, say, 5 breaths. So I guess maybe a bit more like Ashtanga in terms of just you've got a bit longer in the poses than a faster practice. And what I love about that is you have time to get in the pose and then feel how the pose needs to work for you today. So maybe you're going to use more props, or maybe your arm will be in a slightly different position, or maybe you're, I don't know, going to dial back in the pose because, you know, you just feel you need to for whatever reason. And so I love that there is scope for people to practice Forest Yoga. And, you know, if you in a class, everyone might be in the same pose, but in a slightly different version of it that works for them. And I kind of love that because I think, you know, it's just really important. It helps us, it invites us to listen to our body and our needs, and, you know, to feel that we can honor that, and hopefully just creates a practice where people really feel that there's something that they can do within it without it needing to look this, you know, a specific way. So I hope that makes it feel more inclusive.
So as far as I understand, you do stay in the pose a little bit, and you do use props as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I ask you a question, which is the closest methods of your yoga very similar to Forest Yoga, Ashtanga, Iyengar, or whatever you want to?
I think really it's really hard to
Or
say. I think
none of them, just a unique on its
it's
own.
not, yeah, it's not exactly the same as anything, but I think that's why I love it. It draws all the good bits.
It's very different, yeah.
You know, so, you know, we do use props, but, you know, not quite in the same way, not in the same way as Iyengar, but we definitely use props more in Forest Yoga compared to other styles that, you know, that I've practiced and experienced. We do have a bit more time in the poses, so it's definitely like a slower, more strength building practice from that respect. So it's definitely slower than, you know, some vinyasa classes, for example.
Is it a flow? Would you call it a gentle flow or just flow?
Gentle for, well, we do hold the poses for longer, so you know, it can be like, you know, you do tap into your strength there. It's definitely, you know, slower in terms of the main body section of the class. I mean, I would say if you're intrigued about Forest Yoga, you just need to come try a class.
Yes, of
You
course,
can
yeah.
experience it for yourself.
Yes.
Actually,
I have tried one of your
yeah.
classes at Camyoga a couple of times. Yes, I loved it. Yes, it's really, really good practice, and I will recommend to everyone.
Thank you.
It's hard. Some of the stuff are really, you know, like the twist, and you stay, as you say, you stay a little bit on the poses. Yeah, it's tough. I really enjoyed it. However, you know, as you know, like by the way, for people who are listening us, me and Rosalind, we still teach at the same studios. You do online classes.
Yeah.
I do in studio classes at Camyoga, which is Cambridge-based yoga studio. Rosalind, what would you say as last? What would you recommend? What would you advise to people who are listening to you, or who are not sure about their methods of yoga? What should they do? How they should start, or where they should start from?
I think for people that are newer to yoga, coming into a yoga practice, if you have access to be able to attend a beginner's course, I think that's a really great way to learn like the foundations of a yoga practice. And the great thing about beginners courses is that, you know, there's more time is spent breaking all the foundational principles down, so you have time to you know, kind of really understand and get to grips with it. I always recommend, you know, for people to try lots of different styles of classes, because, you know, what the things that I prefer might be quite different, you know, for you or for someone else. So it's always good to try, you know, different styles. I mean, I
I
will
see.
also say, as well as forest yoga, I do teach yin yoga as well, which is really, you know, quite different. Also, you know, some yoga nidra. So, you know, it's not a case of you're only allowed to practice one yoga style. You might have, you know, many different styles that you enjoy practicing. You know, certainly when I've been like running a lot or surfing, the kind of yoga that I'm doing after, you know, if I've done a half marathon, my yoga practice that I'll do the day after that will be quite different than a yoga practice that I do when I'm, you know, haven't run such a hard long race. So I think, yeah, that's the thing I love about yoga is there's so many different options as to how we can practice it. It's a very rich practice, and of course not forgetting there's like meditation, the meditation side to it, and, you know, breath work. So yoga isn't just doing downward facing dog and all your like physical poses. You might be sat in a chair doing a meditation, and that is still very, very much yoga as well. So yeah, there's I guess it's identifying, you know, what you're interested in learning more about, picking a starting point and just moving from there. But beginners courses are definitely a great place to start to get that extra support and you know, knowledge from a teacher, and also be with other people who are at the same, you know, same level as you. So
Thank you, Rosalind. Can you tell us where do you teach right now? What are your current classes, please?
yeah, sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm now working full time in a different job. So I've reduced my teaching offerings. But you can catch me if you want to join me for an online class. I have two classes per week that I teach via Camyoga, as you know. So I teach yin on a Tuesday evening, 7:30 till 8:30, and then forest yoga on a Thursday evening, 6:30 to 7:45. So you can join me online for either of those classes and book through Camyoga for those. And I do also still work with private clients as well. So
and you have an Instagram. If I leave the link below, they can reach you through
yeah, so
Instagram
you
as
can
well.
find me on Instagram at Rosalind_running yogi.
I'll copy link that if Rosalind, if you
Yeah,
want, yes.
yeah, and I have a website, it's rosalindsouthward.com. So yeah, if you want to see my yoga offerings, long distance running adventures, and my surfing attempts and my cold water swims, you can see it all on Instagram.
All right, I will leave all these links below, everyone. You know, the Cam Yoga and Rosalind's classes with times and her Instagram account below the video. So check it out. Rosalind, thank you so much for joining us for today.
You're
Is there
welcome.
anything else that need to be mentioned?
I don't know really. Just want to say thank you for inviting me on, and how nice that, you know, I can be down here in Cornwall and you're, you know,
I
up
know
in
it's
Cambridgeshire, and we can still do this. I love it.
wonderful, isn't it? Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Namaste.
Namaste. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.